Hi everyone, welcome to A Story of Light, a live stream musical journey in 19 days. Today is day 3, and if you're just watching for the first time, you're very welcome. My name is Luke Slott. I'm a musician in Dublin, and I mainly focus on setting to music the Baha'i sacred writings. And for the first 19 days of March, I'm doing this series of daily live streams in preparation for the release of my new album, Home of Light, which is coming out later this year and is a collection of new songs based on the writings of Abdul-Baha. And if you're not familiar with Abdul-Baha, he was the son of Baha'u'llah, the founder of the Baha'i faith, and he's really cherished as a role model to Baha'is and friends around the world. And 2021 is the 100th anniversary of his passing, and so hence the new album this year in his honor. So feel free to check out the previous episodes from the last few days. All the live streams so far, they're linked in the description below. And by the way, all of these videos, all these live streams will be posted, so you can watch them in your own time on YouTube anytime. And what I'm doing is I'm just going live for about 15 minutes, 20 minutes each day from the 1st to the 19th of March, because this is a very special time of year when Baha'is around the world fast from sunrise to sunset each day for 19 days. And it's really a time when we just try to refocus our minds on the important things in life. And so for each of these days, I'm doing this live stream where I'm doing some storytelling and also playing a song based on the Baha'i writings right here live at AP Studios Dublin, where we're recording the new album. And I just wanted to thank you all for joining me for these live streams, because I really consider it a great privilege to share this story. It's a huge learning experience for me to do the research and then try to put these stories into my own words and share them with you. And so I feel really lucky to be able to do this, and I really appreciate all your comments and your engagement with the live stream. So thank you so much for joining me for this series. So to pick up the story where we left it yesterday, amidst this frenzy of messianic excitement that was simultaneously sweeping through both the Christian and Muslim worlds in the 19th century, this 24-year-old Persian youth, in his home in a quiet corner of Shiraz, had made this earth-shaking declaration to a young student, stating in no uncertain terms that he was the promised one that the people of the world were waiting for. And that student, whose name was Mullah Hussein, had described this declaration as an overwhelming thunderbolt of crushing force. And he had spent that night listening enchanted to the teachings of this young spiritual genius who called himself the Bab, the Gate of God. And when the Bab finally allowed Mullah Hussein to share the news of his discovery, Mullah Hussein set out across Persia, blazing a trail from north to south and east to west, sharing the message of the Bab with whoever was willing to listen. And that message spread like wildfire. Thousands, tens of thousands of people, ranging from the most revered scholars in the most distinguished government positions, all the way to the most humble, lowly workers of the land, embraced the Bab's message with a devotion and an ecstasy that became a source of astonishment to their countrymen. And all of the Bab's teachings, all his prayers, his poetry, his sermons, his expositions, all revolved around one central purpose. The Bab told the people that his entire mission was simply the preparatory stage for an even greater event, and that he himself was merely the forerunner of an even greater figure, that great promised one, not only of the Muslim and Christian faiths, but of all faiths, the one promised in the scriptures of Judaism and Christianity and Islam, of Buddhism and Hinduism and Zoroastrianism, and of all of the ancient indigenous traditions of the world, that great promised figure who would come in the future and would guide humanity as one family into its golden age of universal peace and prosperity. And the Bab referred to this figure, of whom he insisted he was merely a herald, simply as him whom God will make manifest. And so today I'd like to share with you some words that the Bab wrote about this great promised one for whom he was merely preparing the way. So, Antimo, could you just put up the first slide on the screen? Okay. So the Bab wrote, "The germ that holdeth within itself the potentialities of the revelation that is to come is endowed with a potency superior to the combined forces of all those who follow me. Of all the tributes I have paid to him who is to come after me, the greatest is this, my written confession, that no words of mine can adequately describe him, nor can any reference to him in my book, the Bayan, do justice to his cause." And so, with this promise, war continued to spread. The authorities in Persia became extremely threatened by the seemingly unstoppable influence that this young man was having. Even though the Bab, he was just a youth and he had no power, he had no authority. All he had was his pen and his verses. And yet, with those verses, he was turning society upside down. And it seemed to the religious and political leaders of Persia as if the very fabric of their power over the people was coming apart at the seams, and they unleashed this tidal wave of persecution against the Bab and his followers. And in the space of a few short years, over 20,000 people, men, women, children, anyone who had dared to listen to the message of the Bab, were arrested, tortured, and slaughtered on the streets of Persia. Even the heroic Mullah Hussein, that young student to whom the Bab had declared his message, was mercilessly mowed down in a nationwide campaign to annihilate the cause of the Bab. And in the year 1850, at the tender age of 31, the Bab himself was brought before a firing squad of 750 soldiers and was publicly shot to death. And the bullet-ridden remains of the Bab were ignominiously dumped in the forest to be devoured by wild animals and be forgotten. But until his last breath, the Bab had remained utterly serene and perfectly confident that he had fulfilled his purpose. He had paved the way for the coming of him whom God will make manifest. And so for today's song, I'd like to sing for you some words of the Bab in which he gave to his followers the highest aspiration that they could aim at, and that was to attain the presence of him whom God will make manifest, to hear his verses and to put his teachings into practice in their lives. So if you're fasting today, I wish you a very good fast, and I hope that you'll join me tomorrow for day 4 of A Story of Light. Thank you for watching, and this song is called Wondrous Paradise. There is no paradise more wondrous There is no paradise more wondrous for any soul than to be exposed to God's manifestation in His day, to hear His verses and believe in them. There is no paradise more wondrous. There is no paradise more wondrous for any soul than to be exposed to God's manifestation in His day, to hear His verses and believe in them. There is no paradise more wondrous. There is no paradise more wondrous to attain His presence, which is naught but the presence of God, to sail upon the sea of the heavenly kingdom of His good pleasure, and to partake of the choice fruits of the paradise of His divine oneness. There is no paradise more wondrous. There is no paradise more wondrous for any soul than to be exposed to God's manifestation in His day, to hear His verses and believe